Hello, my name is Ross Basil. Welcome to My Life with Baseball Cards. I hope you find this almost as entertaining as Fun with Flags by Dr. Sheldon Cooper. My baseball card collection lives here in Charlotte, North Carolina with me. It resides in a piece of furniture called the Horkendork. It's actually something sold by IKEA. It has a name that we couldn't pronounce or remember, so it's just known here as the Horkendork. My journey started in 1971 when I was a first baseman for the T-League team in Mundelein, Illinois, named Denver. I was number 17. Here you can see me at Wrigley Field with my friend Dave Hebier, where later some other dude named Mark Grace would also wear number 17 and play first base. He did okay. I was proud that he was able to follow in my footsteps as the number 17 first baseman at Wrigley Field. Good job, Mark. Anyway, 1971. I was 7 years old. I had a 4-pack-a-week habit. So a 4-pack-a-week habit, what that means is baseball cards come in packs, or at least came in packs. They still do, although it's a little different world now. Anyway, there were 25-cent packs, and there were 10-cent packs. The 25-cent packs actually came in cellophane, and the front and back card, you could see who it was. So if they were guys you didn't already have, then I was like, yes, this is awesome. I'm buying this. I know I have at least 2 new cards. Excellent. Anyway, 4-pack-a-week habit. What does that mean exactly for a 7-year-old? So, it means this. 1, you're 7. 2, I'm making $1 a week. 3, I can't drive. And 4, I don't know what the internet is yet because it hasn't been invented. Now, the internet changes baseball cards in many ways over many years in my future. But 1971, I didn't know that. Neither did anyone else. So, we have 1971 Topps baseball cards. It was my life. It was my dream. It was my purpose. Oddly enough, just by coincidence, 1971 is the year that Topps kind of went batshit crazy with baseball cards. What do I mean by that? So, in 1971, Topps actually made more of the biggest baseball card set, more baseball cards, than any other year. So there were 752 cards in the standard Topps baseball card set in 1971. Record at that time. They also had all kinds of other weird stuff going on. In many of the wax packs, or the 10-cent card packs, there were these metal coins. Still collectible. You can still find them on eBay. Always hated them. When I was 7, I hated them. Couldn't keep them together anywhere. They were, yuck. Didn't like them. There were these scratch-offs. So if you didn't have a coin, you might have had one of these scratch-off things, which had like trivia questions. You scratched off what you thought the right answer was. No one ever really cared about those. Again, if you look hard enough on eBay, you can probably find 1 or 2 of them. They pretty much just sucked. There was also, in separate marketing, which I never really saw, I just remember seeing them around every once in a while at carnivals and stuff, there were jumbo cards. So let me show you. Here is a 1971 Ron Santo card. Regular Ron Santo. Card number 220. Here is a jumbo Ron Santo card. Or a jumbo Ron Santo card. Okay? Look different, don't they? These are both 1971 Ron Santo cards. I don't know why, but they were. Different picture. See? Different picture. Look at the back. The backs are the same, except for the card number, of course. There were 752 different regular cards, 63 of these. These are still a little intriguing to me. You can find them, again, if you look hard on eBay. I'm not excited enough to go get a bunch of them. I happen to have, this is the only one I have, actually. But they're kind of neat. Neater than all the other add-ons. Anyway, so there's 1971 Topps, or at least the starter. Now, I love the 71 Topps set. That probably sounds weird to normal people, but I do. There are certain sets that just stand out. And I don't want to say it's because it was the first year that I collected. It might be, there might be some relevance there, but there are other card sets that I like a lot as well. Almost same plateau. 1956, before I was born. Love 1956. We'll see some of those later. 2000 tops. We had gold border, very sweet. 2016 set, very nice, very clean, cool stuff, great action shots. Anyway, so that's how 1971 started for me. So some things about 1971 and being a 7-year-old in 1971 that can't really be experienced by a 7-year-old now. Baseball cards were kind of my connection to baseball in a way that it wouldn't be for a 7-year-old today. First of all, there's not an internet in 1971. So what does that really mean? Take, for example, Nolan Ryan. So in 1972, I'm 8. This guy comes out and he starts striking out people and just crazy. Everyone's going nuts. Nolan Ryan, he's amazing. Came out of nowhere. But he wasn't a Rookie of the Year candidate. So where did this guy come from? Couldn't Google him, could I? Guess where I went? Go to my baseball cards. Turns out I look up my 1971 baseball card of Nolan Ryan. Huh, look at that. He was on the Mets last year. He's not really all that great. He has a 19-24 career record. All of a sudden, he's amazing. But hey, I was able to look all this up on my baseball card because Google didn't exist. Now, here's another thing about 1971 that is relevant later in many ways. They still had cards in series back then. So when the year started, April, maybe even March, a 7-year-old would run out or bike out, couldn't drive, to grocery store, drugstore, whoever was selling baseball cards. Buy as many packs as you can. Try to get all the baseball cards. That's one of every player. That's kind of the goal of a collector. Thing is, it's the first series in April. So the best you can do, you can't get all 752 cards in April. You can get Series 1, which might be the first 133, something like that. I could look it up. I'm too lazy to do it. But so you buy as many as you can. You go out again next week, you buy them. They're almost all doubles because you just bought them all last week. You might wind up with like 120 of the 133. Then you spend your time trading, bartering, whatever you got to do to get the 133. Then finally, I don't know, May or sometime later rolls around, boom, season 2 comes out, everyone goes, buys, trades again. That's the whole thing of how baseball cards work back then for a 7-year-old anyway. But what happens when August and September roll around? If you're a Cubs fan, by the time September comes around, you're not thinking about the Cubs anymore because they're 107 games out of first place. And there aren't 5 rounds of playoffs. There's the NLCS, and you are not going to be watching the Cubs in the NLCS. Not unique to Cubs fans. I'm sure many other towns felt that way too. But the Cubs fans always felt that way in those days. So, fewer baseball cards were bought because there was less interest. Surprisingly, Topps was smart enough to realize that, hey, fewer are being bought, we're not going to make as many. Hey, look at that. Less supply, less in creation. They created scarcity. So even today, you'll hear the term, if you're really paying attention to baseball cards and you're not normal, you'll hear the term high number cards. This is what causes high number cards to be much more valuable, is they made fewer of them. I was reading an interview recently with a Topps executive, who was an executive in the 50s, actually. And he said, he was talking about the Mickey Mantle rookie card, which is worth 5 figures now, maybe 6. I mean, it's very, very expensive. One, hey, it's Mickey Mantle. All Mickey Mantle cards are very expensive. But rookie cards, I still don't subscribe to the whole rookie card theory, but rookie cards are even more valuable. What he said in his interview was, hey, it was a high number. by the end of the season, he couldn't give the cards away. He was going to fairs, he was going to carnivals, he was going places just kind of promoting, trying to give packs away. People wouldn't even take them for free. He said he dumped, there are many Mickey Mantle rookie cards sitting in the bottom of the ocean somewhere because he just went to the ocean and dumped baseball cards in there. So, if you're a really good scuba diver, you might be able to find some good 52 Topps rookies of Mickey Mantle. Let's talk about 1972. So I told you about all the sets I love. Probably my least favorite set, 1972. I didn't know about Nolan Ryan during 72 because here's the 72 card. 72 is perhaps the ugliest baseball card ever made. This is just ugly. But also the side effect of this is his card was number 595. So this didn't come out until like August. So Nolan Ryan was old news by the time this came out. So there you go. That's why I had to look at my 1971 card and say, oh, he was with the Mets. That's why I didn't hear him before. And he kind of sucked on the Mets. That's kind of weird. All right. Another thing where Topps was my internet but failed hard was 1971. The Washington Senators, as they were known then, actually forfeited a game and moved to Arlington, Texas to create what is known still today as the Texas Rangers American League Baseball team. In 1972, they were still the Rangers, obviously. Still the most hideous baseball card set. What they did was, instead of actually taking shots of Rangers players, this is actually the picture of a Washington Senator with the W redded out on his cap. All the Rangers cards that year were set up like that. So that means for a year and a half, because I only got to see National League games because I watched the Cubs and the White Sox were on past my bedtime, I never knew what the Rangers uniforms looked like for a year and a half. Is that sad or what? Okay, so if you've tuned into this and you feel like, oh my God, he's still talking about 1971 and now he's going to talk about 1972. Don't worry, I'm not going through every year between 1971 and 2020. So don't worry about that. But I am going to talk about 1972, and there's a reason for this. As I mentioned, 1972 is like the worst year of baseball cards. And let me explain. Let's look at this. Here's a Phillies card. Okay? Rick Wise. And, you know, he was a good pitcher. But look at the Phillies card. Every Phillies card looked like this. It had an orange border with green and blue lettering. Why? The Phillies have none of those colors, okay? All right, you say, oh, okay, maybe that's a fluke. How about the Cardinals? Here's a Cardinals card. All the Cardinals cards had this. Blue and yellow. There is no blue and yellow in a Cardinals uniform, okay? Dodgers. We got brown and black. No brown and black for the Dodgers. Yeah. Reds. Red. Red should be red, right? Okay. We got green, blue, and yellow for the Reds. And worst, the Cubs. Pink, green, and yellow. Oh, it's a Technicolor yawn time for the Cubs. Oh, it was so sad. So 72, terrible year for baseball cards. I'll kind of leave it at that. But it did start this trend that started with the Rangers. It was a little bit in previous years too, but they started getting crazy in 72. Drawn on hat, okay? This, actually, if you look closely at this Nolan Ryan card I showed you earlier, the hat is actually drawn on here. If you look at his shoulders, those are Mets pinstripes on him, okay? And that's one of the cool things about baseball cards if you want to be observant about the baseball. And again, going back to 71, don't worry, I'm not going to keep going back. The 71 was another landmark set in that it was the first set the Topps did, and this is a big plus, that actually had pictures from actual baseball games in them. Before then, it was always stage photos, kind of a high school portrait kind of deal. But they were action shots. Thurman Munson, look at that. Gritty Thurman Munson there at the plate. And if you really want to look at the detail, there's some really cool stuff. I have some more common cards. If you look at Ken McMullen, kind of who was that? Third baseman for the Angels. If you look in the background of that card, and I just saw this a couple years ago actually, there was years ago, Yankee Stadium. I saw this actually on a trivia question on the back of a 1972 card when I was a kid. The monuments of Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, and Miller Huggins, I think, were actually on the warning track in the outfield. And I was like, no way, that couldn't be true. If you look at Ken McMullen's card in the background, you see the monuments in the background in the outfield. Cool as all get out. It is really neat. There's also a light pole, I think, in the playing field at that time in Yankees Field. So, very cool. There's actually 2 player cards, Dal Maxville and another guy, Ken Boswell. And it looks like they're taken from the same angle. It looks like from the same game at Shea Shea Stadium. So it's kind of neat to just really look at these old photos, even new ones, but especially some of the older ones. It's like, wow, look at what Shea Stadium looked like in 1970. Cool. All right. Jumping to 73, or not even 73, some of the 70s. Another thing that Topps did that kind of drove me nuts early in my career of card collecting was the Cubs. For some reason, not only did they use pink for their color in 1972, all of the Cubs pictures, and I didn't realize this till later either, were all in their road uniforms. Now, Cubs, pinstripes, home uniform, cool uniforms forever. 1971, 72, all road uniforms. Never saw them. I didn't consciously notice this. 73, even then, mostly road uniforms. There were like 2 or 3 with the pinstripes. So this was the only 1973 baseball card. Glenn Beckert, awesome guy. Actually just died a few days ago. Has nothing to do with any of this. But pinstripes and the ivy in the background. You wouldn't see that again until Upper Deck changed the game in the late 80s. All right, some other fun about the Topps of my first era of baseball card collecting. The drawn-on hats. They actually got so crazy about drawn-on hats. In 1974, they actually created an entire separate set of everybody who got traded. And someone must have said, I've got a great idea. For everyone who got traded this year, let's take an old photo of them and draw a really shitty hat on them and call it a traded card. So we get great cards like Lindy McDaniel. Oh, that looks real. How about this really real looking St. Louis hat on this guy? Really cool stuff. Oh, drove me crazy. And then here's some extra fun. So Willie McCovey, Hall of Famer, spent some time with the San Diego Padres. So in 74, this wasn't even a traded card. This was his regular card. Just got traded to the Padres. Drawn on hat. So there's strike one. Then for some reason in 74, they're the Washington National Leaguers. Someone heard a rumor at some time the Padres may move to Washington. So there's a bunch of Padres cards, 14 I believe, that for a while were called the Washington National Leaguers. So this actually creates a separate little subset of cards you can get. I actually have a team card too, the Washington National Leaguers. It's a semi-rarity from 74. Rarities are kind of fun. I got also from 74, Jesus Alou. Look at that. They forgot to put his position on one of these. So anyway, my collection career started in 71. The era ended in about 78 when I got to high school. As I mentioned a little while ago, I sold the cards when I got to college. Needed money, for adult lifestyle, all that kind of lifestyle. Go to college and eat is basically what I needed the money for. So those are my general impressions of 71 through 78. Love 71, 73, things came along. Couple of interesting things about 73. 73 was the last year that they did series. 1974, they actually advertised it big. All one series, so you could potentially buy all 660 cards from that set in April. Interesting. The thing about 1973, remember how I told you about multiple series, when it got to be September, and I was 9 then, I remember going to National Foods on Highway 45, and I would get the last series pack, and you buy them, and you're desperate for the last series because they're so rare and so hard to get. You buy a pack of, 10, 15 cards, whatever it was. They were still trying to get rid of all the crap from the first several series, so your high number pack that you just bought probably had 2 or 3 high numbers in it, and a whole bunch of crap you already bought earlier in the year. Ugh, Topps, sometimes you anger me. Anyway, let's close out the 70s here. Couple of oddities from the 70s that weren't Topps. There are other companies besides Topps. Topps started in 1951, kind of monopolized the market for a long time. One slight detour on that I recognize as an official thing is the Kellogg's 3D sets. Some people my age might remember this, and they may still be doing it, I don't know. But for a while, you bought your Corn Flakes, your Fruit Loops, or whatever you got, a baseball card would come in it. And there were these hokey 3D things, and you actually could send in box tops some years, and some amount of money, whatever it was. And they would send you the whole set of 60 cards or whatever it was. The one exception, you can guess what year I'm going to say, 1971. Awesome set. Maybe my favorite Ernie Banks card is a 71 Kellogg's. Roberto Clemente, same story. I love the Willie Mays card, 71 Kellogg's. Wonderful set. They did not do box tops that year. I think it's the only year they didn't do that when they were producing these things. This is actually a rare set to find. When I put mine together, it was worth something like $600 or $700. Maybe more now, I don't know. Anyway, so a sidestep from the 70s. This is one set that isn't Topps that I love. 71 Kellogg's. I have the whole thing. Also, there was a offshoot, the SSPC, a one-hit wonder set. Was a company that created cards. I have that set as well. Topps actually sued them, so they only did one set, but that 76 set is very nice. I have that as well, and it has some very nice pictures of some Hall of Famers in it. So I mentioned before, and I'm going to take a slight digression here. That's going to happen a few times. My friend Dave Heber. So, when I was a 7-year-old, my friend Dave Heber sat on my front porch with me one day. And I had an Ernie Banks 1970 card. I don't even remember how I got that. But I had it. And Ernie Banks, for those of you who are not Cubs fans, especially in the early 70s, he was the Cubs god. He's still a Cubs god, but at that time he was the Cubs god. And I had a 1970 Ernie Banks. Dave Heber obviously wanted a 1970 Ernie Banks. So, Dave is a year and a half older than me. And we sat on my front porch, and it was early in the 1971 season. He was talking with me about, hey, do you want to trade that Ernie Banks card? No way, I'm not trading Ernie Banks. I said, hey, I got a card for you right here. He holds up this 71 Braves rookie card. Now, this is before the 90s rookie card crap was going on. This is just a rookie card of the Braves. Now, this is Oscar Brown and Earl Williams, two pretty good players. They turned out to be anyway, and they could be really nice guys. I have no idea. Anyway, he says, I'll trade you this card for your 1970 Ernie Banks. So I said, nah, I'm not going to do that. It's Ernie Banks. He said, but wait. There are 2 players on this card. There's only 1 player on an Ernie Banks card. And I said, that's a good point. And I traded it. Can you believe I traded Ernie Banks? Now, the thing is, and I'll probably go over this later again, but when I got in the college age, I wound up selling all my baseball cards anyway, so it wouldn't matter. This is not the same Braves rookie card that he traded me. It's a Braves rookie card that I bought later when I had to replenish my collection. So anyway, fast forward way ahead. After I have kids, Dave and I have been out of touch for several years, and we're probably like in our early 30s. And I see him in Wisconsin for the first time in years, many years. And I told him this story, and I said, yeah, I had our new bank card. You were such a sprinkler, and I was able to talk so much crap about him. He was like, oh, hang on a second. He leaves the room. We're at his parents' house, oddly enough, but he goes back to his room, his old room. He comes back with a 1970 Ernie Banks card. Not any 1970 Ernie Banks card. This is the 1970 Ernie Banks card that I traded him when I was 7. So this is now the only card that I had when I was 7 years old that I still have today. And as much as I want to hate Dave Hebier, now I can't. So you may conclude that the second era of my baseball card collecting life would be the 80s, but you would conclude wrong. Actually, the 80s, I kind of sat out as a baseball card collector. I didn't sit out as a baseball person, but as a baseball card collector. Actual baseball became very interesting. The Cubs actually got to the playoffs in 84, which was amazing. Now, I missed most of that because I was struggling to get through college, which, well, I wasn't struggling. I was spending a lot of time paying my way through college, going to work and school and all that kind of stuff. So I was vaguely aware of that team, mostly free agents, getting the Cubs to the World Series. Now, the cool thing was I could get WGN, so I'd see the Cubs occasionally on cable, which was pretty cool. I had moved to Clemson. I was living in Clemson at the time, so I had become started my life as a Southerner, and most of my friends were from Aiken, South Carolina, and were Braves fans. And I became secondarily a Braves fan, and this is something that would grow for a while. I wasn't the bandwagon Braves fan. I listened to the Braves on the radio a lot when I did my homework, especially like during my master's degree years. And the Braves weren't all that great usually either. The year, I think it was 82, was the first time I went to a Braves game in Atlanta because a bunch of my college friends were saying, hey, Braves won 12 in a row to start the year. We got to go see them break the record for most wins to start a season. So I went. Dale Murphy was awesome. Braves won their 13th in a row. I got to see history. I was hooked as a Braves fan for life. So I'm now both a Braves and a Cubs fan as of the 80s. Speaking in terms of Braves baseball cards themselves, the Topps offerings in the 80s were pretty weak. 83 was kind of a nice looking year. That was pretty good. 84 and 85 were okay. Quality of the cards were the photos weren't real sharp. 81 was almost 72 level bad from a graphical standpoint. But things turned around in 1989. Two things happened. One, possibly the most fun I've ever had watching a baseball season was the Cubs, bunch of no-name players, watched almost every game that year, took the division. It was fantastic. That was one of the greatest seasons of baseball I've ever watched in my life. So fun. Also in 18, yeah, I'm not that old. 1989, Upper Deck broke through and produced the first significant non-Topps baseball card set. And it was awesome. This was the first great baseball card set produced, in my opinion, since the early 70s. And the Ken Griffey Jr. card was included. There's a lot of legend around this card. This is his rookie card. They kind of threw it together, None of the other companies did a rookie card of his that year because they didn't think he was going to be playing in the majors that year. And not only did Upper Deck create this card, they made it #1 in their first set that they ever created. Gutsy move. This, for a long time, was a crazy expensive card. Now people have realized it's not rare. Still, a PSA 10 will go for 3 figures. But my collection is not about the money. It's about the fun. So, 80s, in a nutshell, baseball itself was fun as all get out. I learned about the Braves. I became a Braves brethren. 84 Cubs were fun. 89 Cubs, some of the most fun I've ever had watching baseball. Fantastic stuff. This 89 Upper Deck set was the harbinger of both good and bad things to come. Upper Deck would not live in the baseball universe very long, but they changed. They made Topps up their game, and they produced some of the most fantastic baseball sets ever done while they were still in the market. So that is pre-Era 2 for my baseball card life. Next, we'll talk about the naughty 90s.